Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Connecting Dots podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Usama, and our today's guest is Karen, who has joined us all the way from Munich, Germany. She currently holds the position of the head of portfolio marketing at Ericsson, and in this upcoming conversation, we'll get her to simplify her professional journey for us, and we'll see what kind of decision making that she did that really helped her in being the leader that she is today. So, with that, we formally welcome you to the show, Karen. How had your day been so far?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's been a fantastic day here in Munich. I can feel the spring is in the air.
Excellent. So with that, let's get started, Karen. First of all, give us a summary of your professional journey so far, and what kind of roles have you taken in the past?
Fantastic. So let's take it from top down. So today I'm serving as head of portfolio marketing for the enterprise segment at Ericsson. And what does that mean? So Ericsson is a provider of connectivity technology like 5G. So think of everything from equipment to software for telecom operators. You may think of it from the phones, but we're constantly evolving. And in that evolution, we're expanding into what I take care of, and that's enterprise. So I'm packaging all of that technology to industries and businesses. So, for example, all the bits and pieces that a telecom provider needs to provide cellular connectivity to consumers, we package it for enterprise use. So, for example, industries like manufacturing, they have a lot of connected use cases, as for example, robotics or the connected worker. We make sure that they have a private network for that critical connectivity. Now, this is what the company does, and my role is then in portfolio marketing to ensure that we understand the enterprise needs, so what businesses, industries, governments, and society need, and provide a comprehensive portfolio to address it. This is what I do today, and what I have done to get here in my professional journey has been a combination of different steps. So I mostly held strategy and product roles in the last 10 plus years. From the start, so I've been working alongside of studying technology and business. I actually started in a different industry than the telecom industry. I started in banking and finance. So my one of my initial jobs was working as a technology trainee at a bank. I was working a lot with risk management. And while working with risk management and our IT systems, I realized that there is a better way to do credit scoring. In order to propose that change and to propose changes in the systems and how we provide credit, it was very hard to get that traditional industry to change. And that was, at the time, the beginning of fintech. So I asked myself, do I want to be comfortable and stay in this very good position and very good company, or do I want to change the industry? I chose the latter, and in order to change that traditional industry, I decided to study a master's in corporate entrepreneurship and innovation. Upon completion of my master's, I was ready to go back to my vocation, to banking and finance. But that's when I found the telecom industry, an equally traditional industry that needed change. So I pivoted from technology trainee at a bank to becoming a CEO trainee at Telecompany. So Telecompany is a telecom operator that is present in the Nordics and Baltics. So there I've been holding from a very strategic position, working closely with the CEO at the time, to more product and innovation-based roles. And overall, as you can see, there has been potentially a red thread across those industries. Both, I like transactions, either financial or telecom, and my main motto is to transform traditional industries.
That is fantastic. So first of all, maybe a silly question to be honest, but telecom industry, I feel like it's not the easiest to understand, and there is a certain, I would say, learning curve in getting to understand the terminologies, the technologies, the signal processing behind the technology and whatnot. So for you, how was that learning curve for you, and how were you able to get past it and be confident in assuming that position?
Mhm. That's a very good question. In every industry that you will start, being manufacturing, banking, or telecom, it will be a learning curve to understand this industry. And this is why it's so important to have transferable skills across those industries. Within the telecom space, I did not have a telecommunications engineering background. So for me, it's really important. So key aspects would be curiosity, humbleness, and really try to understand and learn as much from peers and the specialists in the industries. There are plenty of industry analyst reports. There are many ways of upskilling yourself. So use that self driven, very proactive way of learning about this industry because it might not be something that is part of your studies of your background, but you can use those transferable skills and land into an industry where you find yourself as a beginner. But surround yourself with the right peers and be curious about it. That will be my tip.
Perfect. So moving on, so you've worked in the CSP world and you worked with a vendor company as well. So in your opinion, which of the two sides of the telecom world are more eager towards either creating new technology or proposing the use of new technology and being a proponent of change, to be honest? So what have you experienced in this regard?
So this is a first one that CSP, so communication service providers, that's what we call operators or the technology providers, as in, for example, companies like Ericsson. And I believe that to innovate, it's an industry effort. So in order for the technology providers, such as, for example, Ericsson and other ICT providers, to innovate, we need to make sure that the customers or partners are also innovating. So I wouldn't say that there is one that is more advanced than the other. It's actually in order for an industry to evolve, there needs to be cooperation, and it's a full ecosystem effort.
Right, absolutely. So, other than that, since you've mentioned a little bit about strategy as well, so in your experience, what do you think is an essential ingredient in terms of strategy that keeps a technical or a technology company competitive in the market?
Never settle. Know that you can be disrupted at any time. So
Right.
it is that healthy balance of investing in your R&D, investing in your technology leadership, but at the same pace, invest in understanding what is your market, who is your buyer, what are their needs, what are their challenges, because no one wants to buy a better mousetrap. It's not all about the technology. It's also about understanding the customer needs, seeing your gap or the gap in the market, and really communicate what sets you apart.
Right, absolutely. And again, the way I see it is that the higher you move up in the corporate ladder, not only is it that you need to be good at your technical expertise, but you also need to be good at people management as well. So, in your opinion, what's the key ingredient here when it comes to people management? Is it empathy, or is it to be perceptive towards their needs, or how have you experienced it in your journey?
It's a very good question. So, people management or leadership, one is we tend to think of leadership as being a formal manager. And we often forget that informal leadership when you're leading a project, when you're leading a peer that just started. So I like to take a leadership approach that is more broad. It's really being not necessarily a formal manager, but being a leader towards a project or a group of people. And there are different leadership styles. There is not a bad one, but I think what makes a good leader is understanding how you need to staff your teams. So staff diversely, and this is not only about gender diversity, but also about the personality, what kind of persona we're talking to, different age groups, different backgrounds. So make sure that you complement that team and yourself with different diverse perspectives. A good leader is not only looking at him or herself, but they make their team shine. So it's that servant leader to a certain point, making sure that the team is rewarded and is seen. And in times as right now, so when you have uncertainty, you might have different directions or a lot of noise to cut through. a good leader is one that shields the team from uncertainty. It's a good leader is one that sets clear goals, clear perspectives, and protects them with clear direction. This is something that I appreciated in the great leaders I had throughout my career, and something that I try to bring to my team as well. Is a team that is diverse. I want to make sure that I lift them up and I make them shine, and that my role as a leader is to shield them from uncertainty and make sure that they have clear direction.
Right, right. That's very profound. And Karen, maybe we can extrapolate that a little further. So, again, while you were taking on bigger and bigger roles in your journey, were there any specific milestones that you had set for yourself that you were like, if I can get a certain experience, then I feel confident in taking a bigger role? Or was it the fact that you were brave enough to just throw yourself in the pool and learn swimming that way? So, there can be certain different approaches, but how had it been for you?
I think one reflection in general is that I was always intentional. Our life is lived through contingency, and we need to be prepared for the opportunities that may arise. And otherwise, we need to create those opportunities. Do you want to connect to a person? Prepare. If you meet that person in the corridor, know what you will say. So I've been very intentional with my career. And even though my intention was never to end in telecommunications, I took those opportunities because I knew that where I wanted to go was to change the traditional industry. So I would say overall, have that intention and be prepared for those opportunities when they arise.
That is beautiful. And the other thing that I'm really eager to understand coming from an engineering world is that in these technical companies, how do you see product marketing that looks like? So let's say whenever companies are launching a new feature or they're launching a completely new product, in general, if it's okay to ask that in public about this situation for you, so how do you think it looks like? Like, how do you guys prepare for product launches?
And so I would say that then that would be more towards product marketing than portfolio marketing, because I'll be looking at many different products. But if I take a stab at, for example, product marketing, it's there are different development cycles. So, for example, you might have a different development cycle for a 5G versus a 6G. It's a different a different speed than, for example, in the IT space where you have constant deliveries, constant new features. And not every feature is a launch. So I like to, in my role, always challenge product marketing and product management organizations to see how does that impact. So that outside in perspective, what does that mean to your customer? What does that mean to the market that you're serving? And I think a good product launch or portfolio announcement is really hitting the nail when it comes to this is what the product does and how we address your needs. This is the gap that we're filling in the market, and this is what sets us apart. This is what why you should buy from us and not competition. If you talk about your approach, your benefits, and your competition, then you're set for a good launch.
Right, that's beautiful. So maybe on that note, we recently experienced Mobile World Conference where we see all sorts of cutting edge things in the telecom world. So I believe that you were a part of it as well. So how had that been for you?
It was amazing to get back to meeting people in 3D and not being only on Teams calls. So it really rekindle that relationship of being face to face. Mobile World Congress is such a happening for the telecom industry. So it's a very intense week where you have a lot of different meetings, a lot of different exposures, and for me, what my key takeaways are again all about touching with customer. So having that touch base with the customer, understanding the market, and having an opportunity to check in with industry analysts, with media, with other parties. So it's really a spectacle that you not only are there to present and give that input. This is what we have, but also to absorb. and that was what I
Right.
enjoyed the most. I think I enjoyed too much, and I got the classic MWC flu. But it was absolutely worth a full and intense week.
Right, fantastic. So, Karen, maybe on that note, if I were to ask you about a compelling either presentation or a compelling pitch, so in your opinion, how should one construct maybe a good elevator pitch or a good presentation to present to their stakeholders? So, in your opinion, how can one polish that skill?
I love using an approach called NABC, and maybe you briefly heard an allusion to it throughout my conversation. So, N is need. What is the need in the market? What is the need that you're solving? A is your approach. So, how are you going about? What is the product? What is the solution that you're offering? B are clear benefits. State what are those benefits that you're going to provide to this audience. And C is competition. What makes you different? What sets you apart from others? So NABC can be applied to anything that you're selling as a new product, a new offering, but also internally. If you want to pitch a new project or um, a new internal idea, that's a good and concise framework that I like to use.
Absolutely. So, after you've starting executing in your current role, were there any myths that got busted for you?
Hmm Many. So let's think about myths that I felt like I bust or help bust is that the traditional path of someone's roles or job. So it is absolutely okay to cross paths. You can come to marketing even though you are a product person or a strategy person. And this may not be your final destination. If you're working with marketing today, it may not mean that you want to be the CMO, so the chief marketing officer. You might want to go elsewhere. So I think one of the myths that were busted, at least that I feel like I helped bust, is that cross pollination, that cross path, is possible. And we live in a world of specialists. So I think being a generalist is really something that stands out. And other than that, I think the obvious when you are, for example, what I don't like to put myself in that box, but it is the fact that I am a female leader and I am younger than my peers. So I think one of the myths that I've been busting throughout this journey is that there is is a meritocracy. So it's what you have done to come to this point that counts. Is not only your years of service, and moreover that there is no specific gender, ethnicity, or backgrounds that you need in order to excel in a role.
Right. That's very, very profound, I must say. And honestly, I think most of these American tech companies, I think, really busted that myth. For example, if you look at Microsoft, Google, or companies like these, we see a lot of young talent at leadership roles. And that does not necessarily mean that have to be C-suite. That can be a director somewhere, that can be a manager, that can be a program manager or something like that. But that's really, I would say, not only fascinating to me, but it's also very much appealing in a way that, you know, you can do it. It's like now if people have started doing it, it's like maybe I can give it a shot too, because if we don't see people like us being in those leadership positions, you never get to think that you can do it as well. Like for example, the biggest thing I would say in this regard is now that more and more women are taking up leadership roles. So maybe 10, 12 or 10, 20 years ago, people might not think that way, but now that they have started seeing more of these narratives being reshaping the tech companies, I think it really encourages people to think bigger now. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that I've experienced in at least my time that I'm with the telecom world.
A hundred
That's really good.
percent. And representation matters. It is important. And back to what we were talking before about the diversity is not only the representation itself, but it's the different perspectives that are brought up that really sets you apart. is not only about diversity for the sake of diversity, it shows business results. So I think companies are starting to realize more and more, and are bringing that diversity in different shapes to the organizations, and with that representation as well. I think we're busting a myth of what is success. Because if you would ask a couple of generations ago, success meant that you are CEO at a company, or that you are living that glamorous 9 to X, because it's never 9 to 5 life. And we're busting that myth of what success means to people. Maybe it's not a full-time job, it's a part-time job and some gigs. Or maybe a success, it means that you're very happy with the work-life balance in middle management. So I think that's something beyond diversity that's also shifting, is the definition of what success is and what it means to people. Because you need to create your own idea of what is success. And I know I have created mine, and I'm curious to know if you have created yours.
Yeah, so for me, I think, let's say if you're aiming for a certain or a specific position within your 9 to 5, and let's take an example that if it's there, it's not good enough that you feel satisfied, or if it's just not there for you at that time, you don't really have to deprive yourself of your ambition, and you don't really need to keep waiting. Just start something of your own, and it can be beyond 9 to 5 as well. But I think if you stick to it for a certain period of time and don't quit too early, I think that can prove really fruitful in the long run as well. And nonetheless, you can still get a lot of good experience out of that by just being a part of that. So yeah, so that's what I think about it right now. And honestly, success is a very, very relative term, I think. And with the passage of time, our priorities, our passions keep changing. So I think it keeps evolving.
Yeah, I think someone told me quite recently that you already have a no. So what do you have to lose? If you don't try, you will not get a
Exactly,
yes.
exactly.
So the no you have.
Exactly, exactly. So Karen, other than that, do you have any cool traditions within your team?
Traditions. So we throughout throughout COVID, we had to rearrange our traditions, because it's you're not going to meet at the coffee stop anymore. You're not going to go to the water cooler, and I think one of the traditions, or perhaps one of the ways of working I appreciate, is that in Sweden you have something called fika. Fika, it's a way to, if I may translate, is when you have an informal coffee, maybe a little bit of sweets, so some buns with it, and yet you have that informal conversation. So, what one of the traditions that I appreciate is that open door policy, is that you can always reach out and have a fika. It might not be coffee. In my case, it's already past 6 o'clock, so I'm going for water. But
That's good.
you can always have a digital fika.
So, although you did touch base upon your formal education in the beginning as well, but if you were to specifically talk about entrepreneurship, so in your opinion, how did your course of formal education really help you understanding in building that understanding for strategy as well as corporate entrepreneurship?
So let's see. I had to make a career or an academic choice very early. I graduated high school when I was 16. And at that point, it's a very big decision for such a young age. And I figured I'm gonna start with something broad like business. So I started business, and throughout business, I realized that certain subjects, like at least for me personally, like human resources or even marketing, were too fluffy. So I missed the technology side. I took some courses in technology and engineering. So that has been my background. It was very much focusing on a mix of business and technology. Um, Upon graduation, what brought me to corporate entrepreneurship was that need of understanding how to change traditional enterprises. So this is why I chose a master's in corporate entrepreneurship and innovation. So how you can become an entrepreneur from within the organization. And today, I would say that I apply all of those three facets in my day to day. So I have the technology background, so I can come 2 meetings, and I will be able to talk about technology with a lot of confidence. Same with the business. I am well skilled on the business side and a little bit of daring with the entrepreneurship. So I think for me, at least, it's an education or a background that made sense. And even though there were, I think, overall 6 years of academic studies, I made sure that throughout those 6 years, I was also working to get the experience, because it's not only about that academic background, it's also about the hands-on experience.
Right. So now that if you were to be reflecting on the journey that you've had so far, what would be your advice to students who are still in school?
I'm trying to think of what I would have told myself when I was at that spot, and one will be hungry, yes, but it's okay to really experience your life around university and not only work full time and study full time. So make sure that you have some sort of a balance, because that time of your life will pass, and you need to make sure that you have enjoyed. And while you are at university, take that internship, summer internship. Make sure that you have experience, and that may be within your field, or that might be with another, let's call it an unskilled job. So you're doing other kinds of jobs, because that forms you as a person. It helps you to, for example, understand how to work with other colleagues, how to solve situations. I say that I started in banking and finance, but actually before that I was an English instructor. So I was working teaching everything from kids to
Nice.
adults English, and that's not part of my even though English is the language that I speak on an everyday basis, is not part of my CV, but that formed the way that I would, for example, solve conflicts. And at the same time, I guess there is a lot that you learn on trying to keep a class of 15 teenagers well behaved. So that has been a lot of some
Yeah.
of my learning. So make sure to enjoy your academic life and complement it with hands-on experience, either within your field of studies or outside. Experience is good.
Right, that's interesting. And if we were to talk about core values, Karen, what are some of the core values that you really uphold in your life?
So I would say number one is fairness. I want to make sure that the way I am treated and that I treat people is fair. So fairness is one of my core values. A second one is there to speak up, there to try something new, there to change. So be a daring person. That is a second value. And the third is humbleness. I think we're very pressured to look a certain way and to act a certain way, like we have everything figured out and together, and we don't. And if you're humble and if you show yourself vulnerable within a certain frame, I think you get so much from having a human side. So I think humbleness, it's something that I like to live with, or on an everyday, and present myself as a humble person, and with a beginner's mindset.
Right, that's beautiful, and that's what I've noticed as well. For the most part, it's people who are always curious to understand how things are working or processes are working, and who are keen enough to maybe take them a bit of step further. I think those are the ones that I've really seen succeeding in professional careers as well. So that's really profound. And now that we're reaching the end of our conversation, Karen, I would want to close on the point of mentorship. So when we enter this industry, we really don't know anything, and we are maybe drawing upon the experiences of our seniors as well. And then gradually we build that understanding. We built our knowledge, our vision around the products and the company as well. So in that regard, what's your take on mentorship, on how we can positively leverage it to not only improve us as a person, but also advance our career as well?
Mentorship is extremely important, and I would say there are three kinds of mentorship in my life, and what I would also recommend. One is that you, as yourself, you become a mentor. So I'm a mentor for my alma mater, that's Lund University, and I have every year I have a different mentee that I guide through. So that is it's a two-way conversation. I get inspired by him or her, and I also get to share a little bit of and guidance. But I say I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to give you the right questions. So this is one of the mentorships, that you are the mentor. Then a second one is perhaps more of a sponsorship, and that's at work. So you have someone that sponsors, that mentors you within your work environment. And that, in my career today in the company I am, has been extremely important. So it's someone that I can bounce, someone that can really mentor me on what are good steps, both on career-wise, but also within the projects that I'm working with, a fresh perspective. And the third one is someone that is disconnected from your work. So that's a personal mentorship, and someone that you can go a little bit deeper with your life topics, with your with really your almost your more intimate conversation. So those are the three types of mentorship that I try to have around myself, and they change. Those persons change, relationship starts and they end, but it's important that you have them at hand, and you know who to reach out to. So, and in the end, it's a give and take. Have mentors and be a mentor.
Right, that's very beautifully put. Well, now we're at the end of our conversation, Karen. Thank you so much once again for being here with us and really sharing your insights and your reflections with our audience as well. And as far as our audience are concerned, if you like the content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to show your support, and buy me a coffee, to which I'll provide a link in the description as well. So until the next episode rolls out, do check us out on other streaming platforms. This is your host, Usama, signing off, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you.